I had my first video taken down from YouTube and a warning on my channel. Oh, winning. So anyway, December 19th, I uploaded a video where I made a bunch of little game cards, made a bunch of Plants vs. Zombies cards of these spiritual people. And I'm like, I'm gonna go check all their numbers. Like, this is most of them right here. A while ago, my OCD totally would have drove me crazy because these lines aren't all perfect and I had to scribble some shit out there. And then it's like you wake up and you realize that you just were a perfectionist your whole life and displaying symptoms of, mental disorders because you're a spiritual being here living a temporary human experience. And here's a small list of all the people out here talking about this stuff. Before August of last year, the only person I really knew of was Christina Lopes. I was guided right to indigo information. As soon as I had my first breakdown, aka went through my dark nights of the soul, I feel like I'm freaking spiritually under attack. I feel like my whole life I've been spiritually under attack. And maybe this is why, but you don't want to be totally delusional and not listen to what these doctors are saying, but I'm going to these doctors like, hey, there's some spiritual people online talking about how all of these things that you're claiming are mental illness stuff is actually like spiritual stuff, and they're not getting shut down. I should not have had to find out what a spiritual awakening is the way that I did. I should not have been on here crying just a couple months ago, freaking out, wondering if I was literally just straight up possessed by a spirit, and not ever hearing the term walk-in or wanderer or braided soul contract. I shouldn't have had to wake up feeling like I was caught on fire for 7 weeks from a steady stream of source energy, not knowing who or what God was, all of these things. But watching the entire country get attacked by COVID and all of these things really sent me driving my ass right to the mental hospital going, I am so afraid. I am so afraid that God is under attack. I'm terrified that there are angels crying everywhere. I'm not seeing or hearing anything, but I can feel it. Yeah. Well, because I'm a starseed. Indigo 3 braided soul contract. And I'm so upset that everything has happened the way it's happened, but I saw it whenever it happened to me. I'm like, this is just why. This is literally why. Everything has gone the way it's gone. So anywho, I didn't know who Aaron Doughty was until mid-August. And just in the last 3 months, he's gained 30,000 subscribers. All of these different spiritual channels, which, by the way, spirituality has everything to do with conspiracies, energy, and what the hell actually happened in the ancient past. All of them are up. All of them are up subscribers because everybody in the world is going, what in the hell is actually going on? All of these people would have been helpful for me to have access to my whole life let alone once I started going through what I was going through. I'm horrified that there are so many people who have been talking about everything that I experienced and went through for so long. And it's just like they get muffled, they get buried. They're going to go change the algorithms so that they're just even harder to find. But all of these channels combined have 1,306,056 new subscribers just in the last 3 months. I thought that was interesting. Moving on. This would have been helpful too.
This video, I'm going to be sharing with you the truth on indigos, starseeds, and crystal children that nobody tells you. This is going to be something that shapes the way that you see yourself and how you fit into the world. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron, and I help people expand their consciousness. Now, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you that of understanding indigos, that of crystal children, and starseeds. Understanding the differences and the similarities and the truth about the whole entire labels that we give them. Now, here is the truth, and here's where a lot of the terms come from. A lot of the terms come from understanding that we are multidimensional, which means that we exist right now in this life, the way we perceive our reality through our body, that we perceive our reality through. We perceive our life through this. However, at different levels of consciousness, we have connections to other parts of ourself because we go beyond just the physical structure that we have. Now, this is what we call being multidimensional. Now, the truth is, every single person on the planet is multidimensional. They don't just exist here. Their whole entire soul doesn't just have one little piece of it on Earth and then that's it. The truth is, we are all multidimensional, every single one of us. And being multidimensional is about understanding a couple things. One of it is that when you go to bed at night, you think that you're just going to bed at night and that you are just having these dreams that your subconscious mind shows you, when in actuality, the higher dimensional realms aren't perceivable through that of our own mind. So our mind will give us that of subconscious images or subconscious imagery of what could have happened or what we could maybe understand. But in actuality, it's beyond the five senses what we experience in higher dimensional states of consciousness. Now, here's the thing as well. There is a veil of forgetfulness that when we are here, we must stay focused here. So because of that, we don't remember what we do in the higher realms, what we're doing in the higher dimensions. And every single night when we go to bed, we reemerge with that version of us. We have these dreams through our subconscious mind, and then we wake up in the morning and we don't really remember it. Some people remember more than others. That's why it also depends on our belief systems and how we perceive of this process and how open-minded we are as well. Now, when you go to bed at night, you're awake to these states of consciousness. When we are born into Earth in general, we forget who we are. We forget that we are connected to source energy, that we are unconditional love and bliss, that we are multidimensional. We forget that because part of the cool and amazing things about Earth is that this is a place of free will and that we forget who we are when we come here because part of the game, part of this reality is remembering who we are. So if you're watching this video right now, most likely you've been through some sort of spiritual awakening, or you at least have the feeling that you are beyond that of just this physical ego structure that we perceive reality through. So that is a sign right there that you are multidimensional and have these connections to these other aspects of you. So another little thing I'll say as well is a lot of times when we think about our spirit guides, we think that they are other spirit guides, other souls from other lives. They may be. However, at the same time, some of our spirit guides may actually be other versions of us in higher states of consciousness. You could call it your higher self. You could call it just different versions of you. But we think in a way that they're separate when actually their best interest, our well-being is part of their best interest as well because we're all connected. So it's an interesting way of looking at it, but when you start to see it as that, you start to also integrate more of yourself back into yourself. So in general, what's happening right now on the planet is that there is a shift in consciousness happening. There is a raise in vibration. Now, if you want more on also what I'll be sharing with you today with indigos, that of star seeds, and that of crystal children, if you want more of that, you can also study the work of Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon is somebody that founded a technique that is called QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, that brings people into the deepest brainwave states of activity to where they're in hypnosis and they're being interviewed by Dolores or by a QHHT practitioner, and they're guided through certain questions, and what happens is the higher self and the subconscious mind comes through and answers any question that is being asked. And
a lot of people's religions seem to like to tell them that to get hypnotized is witchcrafty, and you're going to go get hypnotized and pull a bunch of fake memories out of you, and they're going to mess with you. Actually, it really looks like they don't want anybody getting hypnotized because they do not want them to remember the fact that they've been here 1,000 times.
The interesting thing is that Dolores Cannon has done this with thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and she's found many consistencies. One of the consistencies is so many people are here right now for this shift in consciousness that's happening on the planet. We are shifting from what we could call a 3 or a 4D level of consciousness into a 5D level of consciousness. We are going from duality and separation into more of a connection to our heart and into understanding that we're all connected. From what I understand and from what Dolores works also explains is this is one of the only times that has ever happened where a whole entire planet has gone through this shift in body, or we're in body right now, whereas in the past this has happened more through like the Mayans, more through where a certain civilization may have quote unquote left, but we're doing it here, we're staying here, but what we're doing is we're raising our vibrational frequency to a new state of consciousness where we in a way merge with our higher selves and we start to exist in a higher state or a higher frequency. So that is something that we are going through right now on the planet. Thousands and thousands of people that have been through this QHHT work have said that. And that is what and why we are here. But remember, part of it is we forget who we are. And the other part of it is we start to remember who we are. And we go through this multidimensional understanding that we are so much more than we can imagine. So if you're here right now, then you're already awake to that. Now, let's get a little bit into understanding indigo, star seeds, and crystal children. Now, the way that Dolores Cannon puts it in her work is that there was 3 main waves of what are called volunteers. Most likely, you're watching this right now, you were and are a volunteer. You volunteered to come to Earth right now to help to wake other people up. Now, the reason I say that is because if you're into this information right now, then you're already ahead of the curve. Because there's a lot of people that won't be open to this, or that it may be a while before they actually come around to this kind of information. But you're on the leading edge. And the waves of volunteers are understanding that, first off, we wanted to be here to go through this transition. So there's also a benefit to our spirit as well as helping the planet and helping other people to wake up. Now, in general, what makes star seeds different from quote-unquote everyone else is that star seeds are just much more aware of their connections to other star systems. So, for example, there may be the Pleiades is a very common one, Sirius, you've got that of Arcturus, you got that of Lyra, you've got Vega, you've got all these different labels for different star systems, which they all have beings that are of a higher dimensional frequency that exist there. And these beings, many of these beings, are also other versions of us. We have part of us maybe incarnated into those systems as well, right now in the present moment. And when you go to bed at night, you're awake to those states of consciousness. However, the idea is understanding that we exist here now, but star seeds are aware that they have other connections as well. And this is about understanding and acknowledging that. However, the thing that I see with a lot of people and a lot of starseeds do is a lot of starseeds will start to identify so much with the other planet or the other existence of them that it takes away from them being here right now in the present moment. And the key is understanding and becoming at peace with, we chose to be here for a certain reason right now. And maybe that reason is just to wake up and help other people wake up, is to raise our vibrational frequency. But the key is understanding that there is a purpose for being here, and sometimes it doesn't help to get too entrained. Yes, it's good to have the awareness. Yes, we may have parallel lives on these different planets, and then these are higher states of consciousness as well, where we have more ability. Here we have time, space, reality. If we want to manifest something, we put an intention, we take action, and then eventually we see it come to fruition. In higher realms, there's times when things just happen instantly because we're in a higher vibrational state. And this is about noticing that, yes, we have those existences, Star seeds in general are considered people that are very aware of those existences. So if you have a feeling that you have also a home somewhere else, maybe you feel like Earth really isn't home for you. That's a common thing that many star seeds will say. And it's about just recognizing, first off, that when it comes to star seeds, understand that everyone is multidimensional. However, if you're watching this video, then most likely you are a starseed. You are somebody that volunteered to come here to help raise the vibration of the planet, and you have the awareness that you have many different also connections throughout the cosmos. Now, sometimes also people with this will get a little bit confused and think that it's like they can only have one connection. Like, oh, I'm Pleiadian in a parallel life. That's it. No, you have that, and you still have other connections as well. Now, the degree of connection will depend upon how much it resonates with you. It'll depend on a couple different factors. But it's about just being aware that you are multi-dimensional. You have many, many existences, because your soul is not just this big. Your soul is much more vast than you can imagine. So that helps the process. The thing with star seeds is about understanding that it's still about integrating in this life. It is still about integrating. It is still about being here now. We're going through this transition. A lot of people will they want to escape and go back home. Well, we're here right now. And the thing is that it's going to get good. It's going to get amazing. Yes, things are going to continue to fall apart, but this is part of the process. So star seeds in general, you could say that crystal children and indigos are star seeds. Star seeds is a more general understanding of it. Then we can move into indigos. Now, indigos have a certain vibrational frequency, and in a way, they came mainly in the 80s and the 90s. Some people would say that I would be considered an indigo. However, once again, it's a label. Let's understand that when it comes to indigos, the way that Dolores Cannon
millennials are so important. Literally, millennial age people are so powerful. Our parents just really can't handle this shit. And it's our kids. It's literally our kids' lives at stake in this shitty world. It is, I feel like it is so important for millennials to do what their families can't and look at this information. This is why everything is shit, because nobody has the correct understanding of the spiritual battle. Not nobody. Actually, the numbers are there. There are people everywhere going through a total wake up. And it is sucky. It is horrific to have to go through this stuff by yourself.
Explains it is that there was a certain vibrational frequency that indigos bring into the world that helps this change to really start to happen. And when we look at that, we can see that also indigos are more activated than a lot of the older generation. Now, we don't have to there's actually 3 waves that Dolores talks about. One of the waves is actually people that are in their 50s to 70s right now. They were one of the first waves because they had it really hard because they had to come into a very dense place, which is Earth, back in the 40s, 50s. However, the idea is that they came in to lay down some of the framework, some of the energy patterns, and even if they weren't actually aware of this information, and then years and years later we had the second wave, and you could say the second wave was like the 80s and the 90s, and the second wave was like the indigos, and the indigos were bringing in more of that frequency, or more activated. So because they're more activated, they're less prone to tradition and the old ways of doing things, and they knew that they have kind of a certain purpose here. You may also be an indigo if you feel like you have you're kind of a rebel, like you want to change the system. I know for me, especially when I went through my spiritual awakening, I was like, I just saw the current structure. I was like, why didn't I learn this metaphysics stuff in high school? Why did I know that your thoughts create your reality? Why did I have to learn that from like a movie, And I was kind of angry for a while. And some indigos may also get angry at the system and the way it is, like the government, this, that. The key is to observe it and to let it go. And that's at least what I've learned in my own life. Now, when we look at this, a lot of indigos came here and are rebels. Rebels, they want to change the system. They know that they have a purpose for changing the system. And these, the indigos came in knowing that and bringing through that vibrational frequency. Understand that when you're going around in the way that Dolores Cannon explains it as well, you may be walking around the supermarket, and your vibrational frequency is affecting everyone that you're around, whether they are aware of it or not, and that could have a profound impact. But you see, sometimes we think, oh, I got to be making YouTube videos to do something, or I got to be putting myself out there. You just being is bringing in a certain frequency, and by so many people being here right now, I just found out the other day there's over 8 billion people on the planet now. That is a lot of people, and there's so many people that want to be here right now to be part of this shift in consciousness. It's not just that we're all reproducing so fast. It's mainly that there's so many souls that come here as well, because if there weren't the souls that wanted to come here, then there'd be something that would happen to where that wouldn't be able to reproduce as fast. So it's about understanding that there's different layers to this. Indigo children are ones that may be right now in their 20s or their 30s, and it's about understanding that came here to make this powerful change and may have more of a rebel mentality. And when we then look at that of crystal children, the general idea for crystal children, and crystal children are just very activated. Those would be like people that were born in like 2000 and up. So they may be like 18 to 20 years old right now, and even younger. And the thing is when it comes to all these different waves, they are just more not conditioned than other generations, so they're more activated. So even if we look at some older people that may be not even into this information, their soul, their spirit is still multidimensional. They just might not be at the place to where they're activated or they understand it. Whereas the kids coming in right now are very, very activated, and honestly, they are the change of the future, because their frequency is going to overpower that of the old traditional ways of doing things.
This is why they're poisoning our children. Our kids are so important. This is why all of a sudden they're talking about population control. They do not want spiritual awakenings, and they definitely are not happy about all of us starseeds here waking up. It's terrible. They have our kids learning Common Core so that they're stupid, and so that they hate school worse, and so that they can get diagnosed with ADD and ADHD, put on medications. Their pineal glands are trapped. Unreal. It's so beat.
They're going to be much more progressive. And crystal children, you could think of that as just very multi-dimensional. Think of a crystal. Crystal has many different facets of it, many different vibrational frequencies in it. Same thing with the crystal children. They are much more aware, much more awake, much more activated, and much less socially conditioned. And they know that this is a time of change, even at a subconscious level. And if you're in any of these categories, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like you have a purpose that goes beyond that of just something small, trivial in your life? Do you feel like your purpose goes beyond that? I know that when I was 5 or 6 years old, I felt like I had a purpose that went beyond just whatever was going on in society, having some type of desk job. I knew it. I've known it from a very young age. And it's just this feeling that you may have, that you have more of a purpose than you can even imagine. That your purpose is here to wake up the planet, is to start to spread this information, or just your vibration. Doesn't mean you need to go out there and tell everyone how to live or that this is going on, but you can at least be in your truth, do what you're passionate about, and as you do what you're passionate about, that becomes an energy state that people like to be around. So the basis of everything I've shared with you, though, is all these 3 different categories, 3 different ways of identifying ourselves. The truth is it doesn't really matter. We are here to make change on the planet. You have a purpose that goes beyond that of what you can imagine. It has to do with raising the frequency of the planet, and the best way you do that is by first off raising the frequency of yourself. Let go of the past social conditioning. Allow yourself to be in a high vibrational state. Understand that you are so much more than you can imagine. So much more. That you think this is who you are right now, and you are so much more. You have different connections. When you go to bed at night, you're awake to these higher states of consciousness. You don't necessarily remember in the morning, but it's about being aware that that's who you are. And the more that you tap into this, is the more that you're going to be feeling in a higher vibrational state, and you're going to be understanding this process. But with any time we have labels, it creates separation. Because then it's like, oh, well, you're a starseed, you're an indigo, I'm a crystal child, I'm a rainbow child, all these different names. It doesn't really make a difference. The point is, you are multidimensional. You're much more than you can imagine. You are here for a purpose right now to help wake up the planet, to help wake up those around you in a way of just by you being yourself, not by needing to shove this information or anything like that. But the main basis is understanding your multidimensionality and not creating barriers between other people as well. Like, oh, I'm aware of this and those people. I know I developed a spiritual ego for a while when I went through my awakening in 2012. When I went through it, I was looking around at other people and I'm like, oh, they're asleep. They don't know who they are. They don't know this. And it creates the separation where it's harder to connect. Instead, what we can learn to do is to allow people to be as they are, have compassion for them. Everyone's on their own journey, and as we do that, we begin to integrate more into this life experience. So, something else I'm creating right now.
Clearly, I'm having a rough time getting out of the anger phase, but it really sucks because the difference in the operating system of a mind that is spiritually awake, it's like, oh, wow, this is why everything is the way it is, because all of these bad guys are spiritually awake and the good guys are sleeping. Like, it's rough. It's really hard to talk to people, even like when I go to work and stuff. Like, now it's just the shock of it all. Like, I feel like I'm awake and I'm just walking around a bunch of people who are moving, walking, talking, running their mouths, but they're in a coma. I feel like I'm literally living in a world that is full of people who are stuck in a coma. It's that different. It's like, I feel like, if you've ever been to Kennywood, them bumper cars, I feel like the extreme process that becoming Christ consciousness actually is like the spark at the top of the wire. Like, to turn your mental light on, to turn your mind on, is to be a bumper car that's actually moving, that's actually sparking against the electric grid that they are running bumper cars on. That's what it feels like to plug into the matrix, is to have a spark and the actual ability to finally like think and function for yourself. And then walking around all day, like, I feel like I'm walking around with a bunch of busted bumper cars that are just broke down on the side of the rink. Like, that's what it feels like. Like, 5-6 months in, like, it's like waking up and remembering that this whole world is just a dream that we're stuck in for now. But there's a bunch of people who are asleep inside of the dream, who are stuck in a nightmare. It's friggin' rough. Again, here's some resources. Everybody's talking about different stuff. Christos Avatar here and Indigo Angel are talking about Guardian Alliance stuff. Now, I went from no spiritual knowledge, no religious knowledge, to being able to pretty well comprehend the Oceana Dean material. If you are advanced spiritually, what do you think? Have you seen the Fall of Metatron video? I, being a stupid Supernatural fan, I didn't even know that Metatron was supposedly a real angel. Because I watched that show, and there was like a demon named Alistair, and then they had a demon named Crowley. I didn't even know that Aleister Crowley was a real person. I didn't know shit about that dude. until like 3 months ago. These movies and these shows literally are keeping everybody asleep and showing them the truth in movies, because there's rules to this game and all they have to do is put it right in front of everybody's faces, so that they just can't even understand that that's actually all what's happening. Pretty wild. But I will always be clutching the Guardian information in one hand while looking at everybody else's information. It seems like the Guardian information is people's stopping points. It seems like people have been fumbling through all of this stuff, and they've been fumbling down all of these other paths, and that's the information that makes everything make sense to people already on a spiritual adventure. I didn't know shit. I rolled right into that information, which I literally, like, my brain went from nothing to being able to comprehend, like, freaking anything and everything. Now, I'm literally backtracking through every ancient civilization, everything, while holding on to Oceana Dean material because it makes sense. It pegs Metatron as a whole collective, a whole fallen collective, and it's literally so wild. Like, literally, the truth is so much stranger than fiction because they've presented the truth as fiction.